Do you know where you are? Do you know where you are?
This is Appetite for Distortion.
And welcome to the podcast, Appetite for Distortion. My name is Brando, episode 126. This is another episode that you're not going to hear anywhere else. Coming up in just a few, we're going to meet the guys who are responsible for this. Do you remember that? I mean, it wasn't that long ago that Axl Rose appeared on the new Looney Tunes cartoon, which is on the Boomerang channel. And it was cool that there was a member of the online Guns N' Roses fan community that was just randomly watching the new Looney Tunes. Unlike me, who just is a 35-year-old who still watches cartoons, but was watching it with, I forget, his or her son or daughter, and just taped it off their phone, and just within minutes or hours, it went viral. And then it was confirmed that, yes, Axl Rose was on the new Looney Tunes cartoon. So coming up, we're going to speak to the writer of that song and the writers of that episode, Rob Janas, I believe that's how you say his last name, and Kevin Fleming. And I just hit him up on Twitter. And that's how it all manifested. You know, it's beautiful how these episodes sometimes come together. And I just can't wait to speak with them both and to get the behind the scenes of how our beloved Axl Rose was teaming up with our beloved Bugs Bunny. What kind of world is this? I love it. It's so brilliant. So I believe one of them is calling up right now.
Hey, it's Rob Janas. How are you?
Hey, Rob. Well, you answered my first question was how to pronounce your last name. Janas?
Oh, yeah. Just Janis, just like a girl's name.
Oh, okay, Janis.
But not.
How are you? I appreciate you giving me your time.
Oh, of course. I'm good. Thanks for having us on. It would be fun to talk about.
I'm looking forward to it. So do you want to wait for Kevin, or do you want to have him awkwardly join us at some point?
He'd probably join us at 1:30. You know, he said he was calling you in a minute. Of course, I was like, well, I'm going to wait 2 minutes, because usually I'm the one who has to call first.
Oh, okay. Right on. So you said you're calling from different time zones. So I'm assuming 818, you're out in L.A. right now?
Yeah, I'm in L.A. He's in Chicago visiting some family.
Oh.
So that's the only reason. Usually he lives in L.A. as well. But
oh, okay. That's cool. We can bond over. My girlfriend is from Chicago, and she's actually
nice.
Going home this weekend.
Oh, sweet. Where's she from? What area? Chicago proper, or the suburb?
It's a suburb outside. I feel like if you said it, I pay attention to everything she says if she ever asks, but I forget the name of the town.
Don't worry about it. I'm the exact same way. I don't even know where my wife is from, honestly.
That's funny. No, I appreciate it. So yeah, I mean, this could also sometimes I do this like an awkward, or not so awkward because you seem to have a great rapport right away. Intro to my interviews. Yeah. Because instead of like yes/no questions, I like to have an organic conversation.
Yeah, it's cool. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I imagine you probably want to focus, or your listeners want to focus on the Guns N' Roses aspect, and that. So we're prepared.
Well, I kind of balance it out, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Because I'm 35. I've been in radio since college. And I've done like FM stuff. I work, I, as you can probably tell from the email, I work for iHeart now. And with this podcast, it kind of just started with a friend. And when he suggested, let's do a podcast about Guns N' Roses, I was like, why? They're my favorite band, but can I? How long can I talk about them? So as it evolved, and my co-host, even though we're still friends, he just got too busy and couldn't do it. It's kind of like, I don't know if you're a sports guy, but I think this is him calling in right now.
Okay.
Hello, Kevin.
Hey, Brendan. How are you?
I'm doing great. We have your friend Rob on the line.
Hi, Kevin.
Never heard of him. Hi, Rob.
I love
Sorry
it.
I'm late. I apologize.
No, all good. We were just kind of schmoozing, and I may or may not include some of that portion, Rob, in the actual interview, but I can bond with you because you're in.
Just make sure that you include that I schmooze better than Kevin, and that you like me more.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kevin. Definitely put that in.
It's all on record.
Over. Yeah. Sounds like you guys covered it all, so that's cool. And
I've already told the story
later.
Yeah. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks for your time.
All right.
No, we were just I'm gonna say that because you're in Chicago, right?
I am just for a couple of days here. Yeah.
Okay. Because I like to, I don't know, with the podcast world and show where all the reach that we have. Because yesterday I just recorded an episode with the lead singer of Soul Asylum. He was in L.A., I believe. But I had a co-host, a listener of the show, who Skyped all the way from India. So
oh, wow.
That kind of ties into what I was just about to say to you, Rob, is that I would be bored talking about Guns N' Roses for, I mean, yes, this podcast is kind of like a hobby, but it's also my career. I would get bored. So I don't know if you guys are sports fans, but if you listen to like a sports station, I guess if you're both kind of from LA, of course you'll turn to this local sports station and you'll hear about the Lakers, right? But of course you'll hear about another sport, the Dodgers, or you may hear about something completely different, Tiger Woods, or domestic violence if it relates, to mental health if it relates. So I kind of do the same thing with Guns N' Roses. Yeah, we can have a full episode talking about GNR, but there are episodes where it's kind of just a loose affiliation that kind of fits our 6 degrees of Guns N' Roses bacon kind of thing. So to both you and Kevin to Rob Janas, like a girl, I'm sorry, you said it first.
No, that's all right.
And Kevin Fleming, I want to learn about you guys too, in addition to, of course, the Axl Rose episode, which we're going to get into. So maybe we could start that I know you both were writers for the new Looney Tunes episodes, right? Or you're not currently working on the show?
Not currently, no. We're done. Our run ended. We did 3 seasons, and now we've moved on. We're working on a Lego show now, Lego City Adventure.
I feel like you guys are living the dream, because I feel like I'm doing radio by default, because cartoons are my love. I grew up, of course, on the regular Looney Tunes, and I don't even want to talk about the Simpsons and Family Guy stuff, but just like old school cartoons, Huckleberry Hounds, and the Pink Panther. But researching you guys, you're both actors. So I don't know who wants to take the first stab at it. Is that just the path of an actor that you'll go and take a writing job? Because it's not like it's a comic strip. You guys are writing new Looney Tunes.
Yeah. Well, you start by being really bad actors and failing.
Okay.
And you're like, well, this isn't going to work. What other realm of entertainment can I try and succeed at? So at least that's my take on it. Kevin, I don't know if you have a take.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know. My career's thriving. I mean, I am, and by that I mean I'm doing nothing. Both Rob and I came up. Rob's a little different. He's very intelligent. He went to Northwestern. He was he studied and did theater and opera. He did opera. He was the real deal. But he and I met doing improv in Chicago.
Okay.
And this is kind of in the late 90s, early 2000s. And so when you're an improviser, you're an actor and you're also sort of a writer, because you're writing lines of dialogue in different points of view if you're playing different characters, kind of all the time. When you're doing a scene, you're not just acting in a scene, but you are also writing all the dialogue kind of simultaneously. So I guess I would say that's kind of where it started. From there, you just kind of create content. You create characters and, you create scenes, sketches. Rob and I met doing, like I said, improv in Chicago at a theater called I.O. It used to be called Improv Olympic, and now it's called I.O. And Rob did a residency on the ETC stage, and I did some stuff over there. But again, that's kind of where it started. And when you're an improviser and an actor, you just kind of create and you put it up, and it is an easier transition than being just an actor running in and trying to write something because you've had a few years of practice of kind of coming up with different points of view and different dialogue. And the really helpful thing is you kind of know what works and what's funny just from audience interaction. You know, you're like, oh, this is a fun thing, and this is getting a response. So I think that helps. And that's kind of how the transition happened. Right, Rob? Does that sound legit?
I couldn't have put it better myself. I thought that was amazing.
Is that near Second City at all? Because I've famously heard of that with a lot of these Saturday Night Live characters and improv coming up in Chicago. Is that close to that, just so I can kind of get my bearings?
The IO Theater. Well, we worked at IO. It was in a different neighborhood in Chicago.
Okay.
And then, like Kevin said, we worked at Second City and wrote a couple of shows there. And Kevin also worked there and wrote some shows. So, you know, we just to follow up on what he said, I think, you know, when you're an improviser, like you say, we're not just acting, we're writing on our feet. And we're creating these kind of, the way we improvised, or we eventually learned, is we improvised long-form pieces. So we would have characters, and we would often follow them through, you know, 3 beats of their lives and create worlds. And it was honestly very similar to the animation world, in that we could kind of go anywhere and do anything, because we didn't need props, we didn't need anything but 2 chairs, you know. So we'd have guns and go to different countries or space or whatever. It was always kind of at our fingertips. So I think that's kind of why we did gravitate towards writing, because it's just essentially improvising on the page, you know. And we would get into a room and come up with scenarios and premises, and kind of really at times improvise together, or at times write alone, or pass the script back and forth and write together. So it was the training of improvisation was really helpful to writing in the animated world.
To follow up and kind of hit your Second City question, the time that we came up was a really fun time in Chicago and in improv in general. And you had a lot of people who are I don't want to say who are well known. How about that? There are people who are well known who are
drop some names, Kevin. Just drop some names.
No,
Make it sound cool.
We would see, like, you know, being around and kind of coming up in the scene, and, you know, up on stage you're watching Tina Fey and Adam McKay, who is the director of Anchorman,
sure,
and all those wonderful movies. So you'd see all these amazing people, and there were so many talented people running around that time in Chicago that, you know, now they go on to successful careers as late night talk show hosts, whether it be like Seth Meyers or any of those guys, or writers in animation like Rob Janas and Kevin Fleming and Matt Craig. The guy we do at Second City, who's a writer on the show, who's a producer of the Looney Tunes show, and the guy who basically brought us in. But we can get to that as we go on. But yeah, so it was a really fun time, and you get to see all these amazing, talented people, and you get to perform with them. And, you know, it was just a really interesting time. And I'm not saying it's not interesting now. I don't know what the scene is like in Chicago, but at the time it was a little bit smaller. Improv wasn't so predominant and so all over the place. So a lot of people had to move to Chicago back then,
right,
to kind of get their feet wet on it. So it was fun.
Yeah, no, that makes sense completely. Did you guys kind of bond? Because as we go along this journey, and what I like doing about this podcast is to see, you know, where we all kind of came from, and then follow that arc to see wherever that J&R tie is. Because I want to just basically create world peace through Guns N' Roses. I guess I don't think it's too much to ask.
Perfect.
So I'm just curious, like, what did you both want to be when you grew up? I mean, you're kind of living the dream as it is, but I can say, people can say the same thing to me. Maybe I'm living my dream working in radio, but growing up, I wanted to be, you know, a professional wrestler for WWF, but I'm 5'6" and Jewish. That's just not gonna. It's not gonna happen. But
maybe a manager, you could manage somebody.
This is very true. But, you know, or I wanted to maybe be a sportscaster, like to be more realistic. But the rock thing took me over. The actual love of radio took over. So what was your path? What were you into that kind of, propelled you to where you both are today? Like what kind of kid were you? Like what did you want to be? I guess did you want to be a writer? Did you want to be an actor? Like a cartoon? I mean, were you anything in the rock world that you lived the dream working with Axl Rose? That kind of what was Little Rob and Little Kevin like?
Boy, that's a good question. Well, I mean, if I tracked it all the way back, I don't think I even wanted to be in entertainment. To be honest, I probably wanted to do some sort of sporting, play second base for the Cubs or something.
Sure.
But I think I got into drama in high school, and I think that's where most people get into it. That's their entree, is they're in the high school play and they think it's cool or whatever. And I think I, for a long time, wanted to be an actor, and kind of in college, I got kind of drafted into the improv group a little bit. And once I started to do that, I was horrible at first because I would watch these people improvise, and it was like magic to me. I didn't understand how they were working without a script or any of that stuff. So I started to really enjoy creating my own material on the spot and writing and stuff. So I don't know if it was. I think it changed. I think it started. I was going to be an actor, and I was a big fan of Shakespeare, and then I could sing and I could do opera and musicals and stuff, but that sort of changed as it went through. And honestly, if I was being completely self-deprecating, I'd say that didn't really work out. So I tried improv, and that worked out for a while. And then the acting part started to not work out. So then I'm like, well, I better start writing because that's not working out. So then I started writing, and that's been working out right now. Now, who knows what's going to happen in 6 months? Hopefully that continues to work out. Mm-hmm. But so basically, I feel like I've failed at a lot of things, and I've finally found a bit of a groove here with the writing of the cartoons. So hopefully that continues. I know it's kind of a long answer to your question, but
it was a long question, so it was perfect.
I think I just in general enjoy working in entertainment. I think it's a fun business, and I've been trying to find areas where I could be successful. And honestly, if you want me to be a blunt answer, it's just to make enough money to live on. I think that's a big issue. So when we've been fortunate, really fortunate to be able to make, somewhat of a living here in the cartoon world. So that's it.
I completely identify with that. It's the same. I had no idea I'd be doing a Guns N' Roses podcast on iHeartRadio talking about the Looney Tunes episode of Axl Rose, the Axl Rose episode of Looney Tunes. I just never thought it would happen. I just liked radio, and I'm following the path, and I'm just enjoying it. Thankfully, I can pay my bills.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because we never thought it would happen either. We would, in our million years, we never would have thought we would have been writing Bugs Bunny and having Axl Rose on. It was a complete shock, really, that it happened. So, but anyway, I'm talking a lot. Kevin, why don't you talk about your boyhood dream?
Yeah, right. No, similar to Rob in that way of just probably wanted to be probably wanted to play football and then become a football coach or something like that. And then, but I always did TV and movies, and really what I like to do is just kind of laugh. I like to goof around with my buddies in grammar school and high school, and I would just love it when you're goofing around with your buddies and you're just laughing so hard that you're like, I'm about to pee my pants. I'm laughing so hard. So I just thought that was super fun. And then in college, I studied communications. I never really did theater, although I took a class that they did some improv, and I was like, that's interesting. And then right before I graduated, a friend of mine and I from high school, we were going to take a class at Second City. That's kind of how you could have gotten started back then, because our goal was to, I thought I'd graduate and probably live back home with my folks for a little while I looked for a job or even live in Chicago. But my buddy and I were going to go, we wanted to do our high school, Andrew High School. We wanted to broadcast their football games. We wanted to do the local Orland Park, Illinois high school football games. And we thought, hey, if we have a Second City class, we could just walk into the cable place and say, we'll have fun. Let us do the, play-by-play, and let us broadcast the high school football games. And he ended up actually getting drafted for baseball, so he bailed on this class, and I tried to get my money back, and I couldn't. And I was like, I don't want to do this class. And instead I took one, and it was a lot of fun. And then I auditioned for something to get a little bit further along in Second City in the training center, and then. But yeah, I mean, I always thought it would be fun, and I always thought it would be really cool to have something to create with your friends that other people enjoyed, whether it be on theater or on television or something like that. So, yeah, that was kind of. But I mean, I always liked comedy and acting in a way. I just never really did a lot of it until kind of after I graduated. I
identify with that as well. I mean, you both are my people, because that's all I kind of wanted to do, was to make someone laugh. I mean, the world has so few Jewish comedians. I didn't want to go that route per se, but when I joined radio in college, I just liked my little humor in talking in between songs, and it's just evolved since then. So yeah, I like making people laugh. So that's why I sprinkled that in, with the GNR stuff as well. Did you? I'm assuming you both grew up watching the Looney Tunes like I did. I mean, is this like? That has to be a major dream. Is that where, I don't know, was that the first big gig that you both got writing, or was there something before then?
Well, Kevin had his own a local TV show. You should talk about that. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. So when I was in Chicago, and Rob was there too, but Rob was kind of doing a stage at Second City back then, and we weren't really working together.
I only do stage. I only do stage in Chicago. No television. I don't like money.
That's right, exactly. We had this TV show that was out of Chicago, but that it was syndicated. This was back kind of before Hulu and Amazon and Netflix and all that, and this is about 10, 15, maybe 15 years ago now. And it was called Sports Action Team. And it was myself and a woman who ended up becoming my wife, and my little brother, who is also a performer. And he wasn't that little at the time. I don't know why I said little, a younger brother. And a couple other guys in Chicago. And it was on NBC affiliates, and it was syndicated by MGM. And it was kind of a semi-scripted show where we were like B-level ESPN wannabe reporters, and we would kind of it was similar to Reno 911, if you ever watched that TV show on Comedy Central, where you'd have a kind of an ensemble, a group of people, and then you'd have kind of a rough storyline that you'd kind of revisit, but then in between that you would go to like little vignettes. To them, it was them kind of like with other actors improvising kind of scenarios that they would arrest people or whatever. But with ours, we had like real athletes, and we would they would always be in on the joke, and we would just have fun with them. So we would like go out and, I don't know, we have like some, this is back, like I said, this is when the NFL was first on NBC, because after a couple of seasons, they're like, in the West Coast specifically, we have kind of dead air. After the games, before the local news, you just kind of fill with like, Dateline reruns or whatever, and Catch a Predator stuff. And I'm like, let's do something fun that's force-themed and comedic. And so we pitched him this thing, and it was on about, 80% of the country, in Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, Miami, Philly, all over the place. And it was super fun. And we'd have Randy Moss and, at the time, Kurt Warner. I'm trying to think. Like, we had some really big people, and now I'm blanking.
Is it still available?
Carson Palmer.
Oh, Carson Palmer.
Carson Palmer threw that ball at your brother's nuts.
Yeah. We had like Jay Seeley, who was a Giants kicker and is now a broadcaster. Curtis Granderson, who played baseball for the Yankees for a while. We had Tom Glavine. We had a bunch of fun people,
Is this available still? Can I watch this?
Yeah, it's on Amazon. I think you have to rent it, though, or buy it. I don't know. But we had 2 seasons of it.
It's worth it. What is it, $5.99? I've already bought it.
I haven't bought it yet, so you're one step ahead of me.
Let's share your password, Rob. We'll all share your password.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
It's called Sports Action Team. It's super fun. So, that was what we were doing for a few years. And then, but I mean, I got to be honest, like, Looney Tunes was great. It was funny as a kid, but I certainly, there were other cartoons at the time that I probably liked more. I probably liked, Dungeons and Dragons as a kid more than I did Looney Tunes. Not that you ever diss Looney Tunes. They're the best, but Certainly, it was.
Well, yeah, some other ones. No, sure. I would love to hear because again, I'm a huge cartoon nerd.
Yeah, I mean,
I love Dungeons and Dragons. Is that the guy with the shield, and the shield would protect everything? That was his only power. And then another was a swordsman. Is that the one you're thinking of?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Johnny Most.
Yes, I
Ralph
think.
Malph was the voice of that one dude.
Oh, really?
Really?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
A lot of voiceovers. Oh, yeah.
That's cool.
There was another one that I liked where it was like when video was real popular, and I think it was called From My Video to My Radio or something like that. I don't remember. It was on NBC, and the gag was there's a band of real people, of kids, and they got sucked into a cartoon somehow. That was a big thing back then in the 80s. Like, it was normal kids getting sucked into cartoons, just like Dungeons and Dragons. It was just like kids playing Dungeons and Dragons. Kids are in a band. All of a sudden, they get sucked into cartoons. So for some reason, I was like, that's awesome. But I also liked wrestling as a kid, so I watched that
cool
wrestling cartoon, and those were all super fun. But certainly, like Rob said, I never thought I would write for Looney Tunes. I never really, but it's awesome. I mean, it was really cool. I mean, I loved Porky Pig as a little kid. Like as a really little kid, I slept with a Porky Pig doll.
Aw.
So that was really cool, and I was super protective of Porky Pig. I still do. Oh, Rob, thank God that. I was never...
Some of those writers' rooms, we go late. He has to sleep. He has to go home and get the pig. It's embarrassing. I was surprised that, when we started writing for Bugs Bunny, how well I kind of felt like I knew him, because I was a big fan of those, the classic ones, like the What's Opera doc or the Barbara Seville one, or any of the Daffy Robin Hood was always a big.
Oh, brilliant! Those were brilliant.
Yeah, I mean they were amazing, and it was almost like I knew. Having grown up with them, it was almost like they were like a part of me, and somehow because I never felt all that. I mean, it was tough. Of course, it was challenging to write the show, but I always felt like we kind of had their voices in our head, at least in my head, from when I was a kid. So all that history was tough to shake. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the best.
I think our show really was. We were trying to get back to the originals. They were like and I don't think it was. They wanted. It has a different iteration. The show before ours was the Looney Tunes show. Ours was the new Looney Tunes show. I know, very different titles. But the one before ours was more of like a sitcom thing. It was a very funny show, but the format was more like half-hour sitcom, and they all kind of were in a house, living in a house together, and the shenanigans they would come up with. So it was a little bit different. And in that one, Bugs was more of a straight man, and that he was kind of the Sam Malone on Cheers, or the I don't know. I'm blank. Who's the dude on Arrested Development? Jason Bateman on Arrested Development. Everybody else around him was crazy. So in ours, one of our assignments really was to kind of make make Bugs, get back to making him do more bits and have more fun and be funnier than he was allowed to be on the other show. So and it was trying to harken back to the older cartoons from the classic days of the 40s and 50s.
Yeah, and then I remember that because, again, I'm an adult who watches Boomerang, so I do. I remember both versions, and I liked your version, especially the animation is always so important, in addition to the writing. And I guess like the animation fit the writing in the new Looney Tunes cartoons. I'm curious, before, of course, we get into the Axl stuff, what's the process to get on a cartoon like that? Do you have to submit an episode, a story? Like, how do you audition to be a writer on the Looney Tunes?
I can't believe that I'm going to say this because, when people would tell me this as a young kid in high school or in college, I'd roll my eyes and be like, whatever. They're like, hey, it's not what you know, it's who you know. Make connections. And I was like, whatever. And then this friend of ours, this guy that we did stuff with in Chicago, that we performed with in L.A. in an improv group together, which we still do in Los Angeles, Rob and I and Matt and a couple other people, he got a job just writing on this show. And he met somebody through improv, and they're like, hey, would you be interested in this? And then he did it for a little while, and then all of a sudden he got promoted. And he got in a position where he could hire some people. And so he reached out to Rob and I and a handful of other improvisers from Chicago that we all kind of worked together with, that moved out to L.A. around the same time. And Rob and I wrote a few things, and they liked them. They liked the episodes. And then the second season, they brought us on full-time, and the third season full-time, where they got rid of kind of the freelance. We were kind of freelancing that first season along with some other people, but towards the second half of the season. So that's kind of how it all happened, is just, you know, we just knew the right guy who got the job at the right time. One thing about Bugs Bunny, real quick, I just want to say this.
Yeah.
I saw a tweet the other day and I thought that was interesting. Like, first of all, I agree with what Rob was saying. Like, it was so much easier to write for, like, iconic voices, because they're just like, you know what Bugs Bunny's going to do or Daffy's going to do, at least in this version of Looney Tunes. But someone wrote that, like, you know, Bugs Bunny would be totally cool and chill, and then someone would do something to him, and he would come back at them like 1,000 times worse than how they stepped up to him. And they said that he was basically the old school John Wick. I thought that was pretty funny, that, like Keanu Reeves movie John Flick. I was like, yeah, that's pretty much it, man. He's like, he is. Someone also said this too, like, everyone thinks that they're Bugs Bunny, like they think they would be cool in a situation, but really everybody's Daffy Duck. Like, everybody is like, you know, doesn't know what the hell they're doing, and it's crazy, and gets angry, and they don't know what the hell is going on. So
that's a really good point.
I love writing about those guys. Yeah.
I think that really explains why Daffy is my favorite Looney Tune character, why I identify with him more. I mean, they're both a bit of a sociopath, but yeah, Daffy gets friggin' angry, man. And I'm like that, yeah, Daffy, it's messed up. So I love it.
Yeah.
So I couldn't find, I want to play for, I'm sure many people have already seen the Axl Rose Looney Tune episode, and how it started, it's funny, in the Guns N' Roses community, because, of course, doing this podcast now, I get involved in talking to listeners in different fan groups. This one father was watching Looney Tunes with his kid, and he posted, you know, off a cell phone video, watching it, you know, just a tube TV. It wasn't good quality. And the next thing you know, it gets shared and shared and shared, and then it's viral. And it just blew up. Like, and we all knew, like, is this really Axl? As soon as he spoke, all fans, everybody knew that it was actually Axl Rose. And I just thought it was the coolest thing ever, because somebody who really doesn't do interviews, doesn't do a lot of press, just randomly shows up in a cartoon, and it just kind of caught on like wildfire. And of course, the song Rock the Rock came out after the official video, and now we know officially Axl Rose was on Looney Tunes. So for those who may not, because unless you guys can tell me different, I couldn't find a good quality version of the dialogue, not the song, because the song is up there. And I just want to play it, and then I kind of just want to know how this all happened, you know, because it just boggles my mind.
Any of you guys know where the Civic Center's at? Because we're doing a rock concert tonight.
It's Axl Rose?
I hope so, because I'm wearing his underwear.
I thought he was the lead singer of Guns N' Roses.
I am, but my real passion is steel underpants.
Sorry, Axl, but there's not going to be a concert tonight.
Yeah, there is. I wrote it on my hand. See?
No, there's no concert tonight because an asteroid is about to blow up the Earth.
That's a bummer, man, because I bought new speakers, too.
Boy, those speakers look like they can do some damage.
They'll blow your house down, little piggy. In fact, when those speakers are turned up full volume, my band can shake mountains to the ground.
Are you guys thinking what I'm thinking?
That I should go back to wearing a mesh jersey and a kilt on stage again?
No.
I don't even know where to start is, how did this happen? How did this facilitate? Who do we need to hug and thank for getting Axl involved? Did he reach out? Did someone reach out to him? Take it away.
Well, Kevin, I think it starts with you. I mean, the impetus when you went to the concert, right?
Yeah. Actually, my brother and I went to GNR. This is the first time they came back a few years ago, right? And this was their big thing. And you notice that they came out to the Looney Tunes theme song, right? So they came out. That's how they walked out on stage.
Yes.
If you remember, this is a tour like 4 or 5 years ago. So Rob and I then went to a concert in L.A. at Dodger Stadium, and it was awesome. Amazing. Same thing, right? So it's like, at first I thought, like, maybe it's just the venue that chose the song. But then they're like, came out to that, and that's kind of where we got the ball rolling. We were sitting in our office one day, and at the time, we were cranking out like 2 outlines a week, and that's how kind of the show would be written. It's just 2 episodes a week we're cranking out. And this is, getting towards the, 300-ish number. And we were both sitting there, and we were both like, let's do stuff that's fun. Like, wouldn't it be cool to meet X, Y, and Z? Like, who are the people that we want to meet? We wanted to meet Axl Rose. We wanted to meet Mike Ditka, which we kind of did already. We wanted to meet Ric Flair. We wanted to meet Ric Flair.
Nice.
We wanted all these fun people. Yeah, exactly. And so that's kind of how it started. We had a poster actually up in our office randomly of like, like we have a Rocky III poster up with Mr. T and Sly Stallone, and we have David Lee Roth. What is that album from, Rob?
Skyscraper.
Skyscraper.
Skyscraper album.
Just like Paradise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Edge of the mountain.
And we got this awesome Guns N' Roses poster up, and we were just like, and then maybe Rob or I were just like, it'd be cool to get Axl Rose in an episode, wouldn't it? I'm like, yeah, it would be fun. And that's kind of how it started. We just wrote something. We had this idea.
Well, the next part was trying to figure out an idea for him. I mean, like Kevin said, we did manage to execute a number of fun people to get on the show, like Axl. We had Snoop Dogg on a different episode. I don't think that's aired. We had Weird Al
Yankovic
episode. So, but we had a whiteboard in our office, and we would always, scribble up different ideas on the board. And I think one that had been living up there for a while that we hadn't written, we just hadn't figured it out, was the Looney Tunes gang has to destroy an asteroid. And so it had been up there, and I think we thought, I don't know how we came up with it. You're sitting in there, you're always writing and thinking and just ideas. Once you get into a groove, you start to kind of just, things start to pop because you're thinking in that world. And so I think we thought, well, what if, the asteroid is coming to Earth, and we're like, how are we going to destroy it? And I think we came up with the idea like, well, Axl Rose comes down and comes over and sings so loud, he rocks so hard that his music literally saves the world.
I think we were joking around.
Guns N' Roses music.
We were joking around of like, well, I mean, the only thing more powerful than a laser beam is rock and roll.
Oh man, because that was the '80s completely.
Yeah, exactly.
So like Kevin was saying, and obviously, he was describing our posters. I mean, clearly we're children of the '80s.
Right on.
David Lee Roth, Rocky III. And we kind of, I mean, at least me, I don't want to speak for Kevin, but in my head, I kind of wanted to, like, because we were writing on a kid's show, and we were writing for Bugs Bunny, who we loved as kids, and I kind of wanted stuff around me that reminded me of when I was a kid. So I like to put the David Lee Roth thing, and I had and Kevin did Rocky III. I had like an old James Bond poster, Never Say Never Again with Sean Connery. It was the first James Bond movie that I'd seen in the theater. And Pepe Le Pew on our show was James Bond. I mean, not James Bond, but a secret agent type.
Okay.
So we kind of had it was like inspirational stuff.
Yeah, like I had a Notre Dame poster up because I love Notre Dame. We wrote basically like a Rudy parody where Porky Pig tries out for a football team. And then we had Sean Astin, who played Rudy in the movie.
Yeah.
He played himself in the episode.
Oh, that's cool.
And, he was basically trying to get other football players his headshot and resume because you never know if another football player is going to want to do another biopic. And he's going to be front and center. He was super fun. They're all super fun, man. Everyone was really cool on it. But so, yeah, go ahead, Rob. Sorry.
Yeah. No. Well, from there, I mean, I mean, we can.
How about this? I can ask because you mentioned some names like Snoop Dogg and Weird Al.
Yeah,
they are known for doing cameos. I mean, I think just both of them just being on The Simpsons. So, did you even think like this is even a possibility? Like, how do you go about or? Because other shows may have an Axl Rose type character and never get that voice. Because even sticking with The Simpsons, they got Michael Jackson to talk but not to sing. So, did you believe this could even happen? And how did you? I mean, is it simple of just knowing people and knowing how to contact their management? And he was all up for the idea. Did you have to persuade or he? I guess going from there.
I'll say this.
Yeah,
I don't think we ever thought it would really happen. And even after we got like, yep, he's coming, and yep, we're setting a date, and even when we showed up at the recording studio, I was still like, there's no way this guy's showing up. So no, I don't think we ever thought that it would happen. Not because because like you said, he'd never done anything. He hadn't done any kind of press or anything. He hasn't done any new songs in years. And we had a woman who worked on the show who was a producer, and she just was pretty tenacious. And Matt Craig, the producer of the show, was a friend of ours. You know, he knew that we really wanted to do this and thought it would be fun, and I think he saw the value in it. And he liked Axl Rose and Guns N' Roses, not as much as Rob and I, who are adult men, and we, have posters of him up for inspiration.
Me too. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it was just a matter of we just kept wanting it and kept like kind of not fighting for it in a real fighting for it way, but everyone just kind of was like, well, let's just keep going. And we found that he had some manager of some sort who was not really involved with the music part of it, just kind of a manager, and then that kind of got around. And the thing about it is, what helped is he was a Looney Tunes fan. Like, he liked Looney Tunes, and he has kind of a personal manager who's also a big fan of it. And so I think that they kind of were like, well, let's try to find some time to do this. Now, that being said, two things had to happen. One, we had to push back that record a lot because they were on tour. It didn't look like he was going to be able to do it. We already had written it. Rob wrote that song. He wrote every lyric of Rock the Rock.
Wow.
We had this guy named Josh Funk who plays music, and he did the arrangements. We had all this, and we had the scripts written, and we were ready to roll. And we kept thinking, like, yeah, it's going to happen, but it's going to have to be pushed back. It kept getting pushed back. We were talking about getting somebody else, which was kind of a bummer. Like, we could have, at one point, it seemed like maybe Steven Tyler was going to do it.
Huh.
And then we were like, oh, great, he'd be amazing. And then it seemed like, but we still wanted Axl. We still kind of were like, great, if he can do it, but let's just see what happens with Axl. Let's give him some more time. He's coming back from Europe soon. Like, we already, we knew the tour schedule, so we knew when he'd be back in the States and for how long. And it just kept moving up, kept getting a little bit further, and it seemed like he was going to do it, and it seemed like more of a reality, and we got some emails from people, and they're like, okay, but we have to see what it looks like. Could you show us, like, an animated version of him? And we did, and they're like, yeah, it's great, but more how Axl looks now. And they were really detailed and really specific. They were wanting, like, certain bandanas on his leg a certain way. And he has, his dog collars for the dogs that he's had in his life who's deceased. He has them on his other foot, and he wanted those to be on there. So as it kind of became more of like specific with the song, he liked the song, and he signed off on it, and we got these like kind of okays for the animation, and then a full okay, and that's when it kind of started to sink in. But the whole time, it's almost just like, you're just kind of. You get a little nibble, and you go, whoa, great. And then you jump a little bit further, and a little further, and a little further, and then eventually you're like, holy crap, we're at the finish line. We're here at the record, and Axl just walked in the building.
That's incredible. That really is. And it wouldn't have been the same with Steven Tyler. Because he's somebody else who puts himself out there, and I'm an Aerosmith fan, but I mean, he did American Idol. He's everywhere. He's playing Vegas now.
Exactly.
Axl was the right guy. He was the right guy, and that says so much about pushing and just getting that little nibble and getting the whole team to kind of will it into existence a little bit. So that's incredible. So when he was there. what was that like? Was it just like a little recording studio? Did you guys get to? Because of course there's like those silly rumors, and that you can't look them in the eye. You hear those rumors from back like in the '80s, and they're always like dispelled by anybody who really knows him, how nice of a guy he is. So were you intimidated, or was he just super nice off the bat?
Real quick, Rob, I'll let you tell the story, but the one thing about not looking him in the eyes, that didn't come from Axl. That's Rob Janas. Rob Janas refuses to let people look him in the eyes. So,
right on.
But go ahead, Rob. You can answer this if cause I just talked like crap ton.
Yeah. Well, you know, it was interesting. I mean, of course we were nervous because you've heard he has this reputation,
right?
Sort of a bad boy, and a dude who is late to concerts and throws things, and jumps into the crowd.
That's why he's cool.
Exactly.
That's why he's cool. That's why we like him.
Right. Exactly. That's why he's the only one who could stop an asteroid, because he's that powerful. Right. So, he came in and he, like you said, I mean, he couldn't have been nicer. I think he came in and he had a Wile E. Coyote T-shirt, and we all shook hands. He went around the room. He introduced himself to everybody, and of course we had like a lot of people were there because they all wanted to hear him sing. And I mean, it was us, I think, and Matt and Josh and a couple other people. So he was totally nice. Then he's like, where do I go? He went into the booth, and we start with the dialogue first. And
can I say one thing real quick? I'm sorry, Rob. Hold on one sec. The one thing that is Axl, and ultimately Axl, and why he's cool, and we always record at this studio in North Hollywood, which is not too far from the Burbank lot of Warner Brothers, and we always record during the day because it's a job for people. And,
sure.
And then I think, and I don't know if this is rumor or true, but like when we told him like be there at 9 or 10 o'clock, he assumed it was PM. Without even like with no hesitation. So he's used to obviously recording at night. So that was a session where we moved. It was just him in a booth with us on the outside of the glass and a couple other engineers. But that was we moved from a day to a night, and I was happy as hell. But
right on.
I mean, I just thought that was hilarious that he's just like, "Yep, I'll be there at 9 p.m." Wait, what?
He's on Rockstar time. He's on Axl time.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and like Kevin said, I still don't think I didn't know if it was actually going to happen. Even up to the very, even when we went in and his manager was there, and then I was like, okay, so the management people are here, then he's probably going to be here. So
they were there a good hour and a half before he showed up.
Don't tell him that.
They were there ready.
It was like an hour. It was an hour. But what's for him, that is early. I mean, I was thinking it was going to be like 1 in the morning he was going to come, and then we were all going to start. But it was fine. And I think when they were there, it was like, okay, he's going to be here.
Yeah.
He rolled in, and he went in and did his.
Super cool.
Very cool. Very nice.
Very cool. Yeah.
Did he have to take were there a lot of takes? Because even when I do these podcasts, sometimes I'm like, I got to do that over again. I suck. So for someone like him who's not used to doing voiceovers like that, because he's great. He doesn't sound like a stiff. He doesn't sound like, I don't know. You believe him as a character in that world. He doesn't seem out of place, if that makes sense. So is he a natural? Or I guess take us through. How many takes did it take for him to get it?
He went into the booth and he was, and honestly, I mean, when he was in there, I was like kind of on edge. I was like, no one say anything. It was like looking at Bigfoot. It was like, if you move, he's going to run away, because it was like this mythical dude who you never see do anything is now standing in front of you and he's about to do your script and your song, and you're like, no one mess this up right
No one
now,
breathed.
right? yeah, it was. That's how I felt. I was like, I didn't relax until the whole thing was over, But anyway, but your question. So he goes in and, he does the line, and I'm like, great, we got it. Move on. Don't mess with him, But our voice director, who's she's great, Colette. She's like, I don't know, Axl. Can you put a smile on that? And I'm like, this is the baddest man in rock and roll. You can't ask him to put a smile on it. But he took direction. Like he was on stage. He's like, yeah, okay, sure, I'll try.
Brilliant.
And then she let him.
That is the one cool thing.
Go ahead.
That's the one cool thing about him. Sorry, the one cool thing about him is that he went in there. And here is arguably, in my mind, one of the biggest rock stars in the world, right? And he comes in, and he is super nice, approachable, fun. He, takes kind of shots at himself a little bit of like, oh, that didn't sound too good. Nah, he never really said that. He was not, but he was able to laugh at himself. And that was the coolest thing about it. And that's why you think like, oh, man, no wonder this dude is so successful and so cool, because he could take direction but still be himself. Like he wouldn't be like, whatever you want, whatever you need. He was still Axl. He was still cool. But he took direction, which was amazing, because like Rob said, we were like, lady, do you know who this is? Like, you know what's happening? She was great, and she knew, but she was a pro too. So, it was awesome. But the thing to like, some of the lines in the script, both Rob and I were like, is he going to like this? Like the kilt line, or even like I wrote it on or I'm wearing this underwear, something like that. We're like, is he going to go for this? Because it's kind of self-deprecating, especially the kilt and mesh jersey thing.
Right.
And he brought it up.
When he said, can I say, are you going to say that when he said that line?
Oh, go ahead.
How we reacted?
Go ahead.
No, well, he said that kilt and mesh jersey line. He reads it like this. He's like, so I should go back to wearing a kilt and mesh jersey on stage again. He kind of said it, and he looked at us like, what the hell? And both Kevin and I were like, no, you don't have to say it. You don't have to say that line. You
can change it. Say whatever you want.
And he's like, no, I got it. He was very nice. And like Kevin said, he was very self-deprecating. Like he's like, no, I get what you guys are doing, and I'm willing to kind of take the piss out of myself a little bit. So that was really cool. I mean, he got, what the whole thing was about. He kind of dug it. So that was fun.
That's too cool.
Yeah.
That is too cool.
Yeah.
How about the song? How much? Because that's obviously a whole other animal. And as I mentioned before, all those years ago, you could say how unique Axl Rose is. Michael Jackson was that much more unique, for lack of a better word, and he didn't sing. He just did the voice for The Simpsons. So to sing, that's, you guys asked a lot of him. So to do a full 2+ minute song, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll let Rob walk you through that. Part. Right. He wrote it, and it's really his baby. I mean, I was there to be like, that's a funny line, or like, that sounds great. But for the most part, the music, even the music that was on that our music director Josh did, still came from Rob. A lot of it, And so the one thing I will say is, when Axl, and Rob, you could tell the story, but I'll just give the caveat of like, when Axl was giving his dialogue, and did that first, he was very open to suggestion and very self-deprecating, and just like almost not on his heels, but he was certainly like, okay, sure, I'm in your world. This is fun. I want to serve the script. I want to make it funny. I want this to be as good as possible. And you guys are kind of the experts in this area, so I'll be cool. But then when we went to record the song, this was what was so cool about Axl Rose. He went from being this kind of like guy on his heels and of like, whatever you want, I'm open, to when we started recording the song, he went to the balls of his feet, man. He's just like, I've got it. And that's where you see like, holy crap, dude. This dude is amazing. Like, this is why he is who he is. But I'm sorry. So that, and Rob, you can walk through the specifics of it. But overall, that was my impression of like, this guy's great. He's awesome. When he went in to record that song, when he started singing and like was going to produce that, that's when he was just like, wow, this guy's a genius. This dude is, this is Axl Rose. This is why he is who he is. All right, cool.
Yeah. I mean, it was for us that we didn't I mean, we knew that he signed off on the song, right? But we didn't know. I mean, honestly, you don't know a lot of we don't know as the writers a lot of what's going on. Even our producer, Matt, he knew most of what was happening, but you never know what's getting communicated because there's people, there's middlemen, and it's through the management. So you don't know how much the person coming in sometimes to do the thing knows about what they're doing. So he said, all right, let's hear the song. So he put the headphones on, and we watched him listen to it. And then you're like, in your mind, you're like, well, he could hate this. You can be like, no, I'm not doing this. This is ridiculous. So and he listened to it once, and it seemed like an eternity. And he's like, okay, can you play it again? And then we played it again. And he's like, okay, here's sounds like you want me to do kind of like an AC/DC thing here. So I can do that. I can do kind of an AC/DC type of thing. But what I'd like to do, and we're like, yeah, whatever you want. I mean, just do, if you sing it, however, you can sing however you want. That's fine with us. And, you can do a Carpenter's version of it. It doesn't matter. So he's like, so he goes like, play it again. And I'm just going to kind of sing along to it. So he listened to it again, and he'd kind of like, he'd sing along to the song. So we'd like, turn it up. He'd kind of mumble it, a little bit. And then he eventually, he was kind of singing along to it as he went, right? So then our music director, Josh, was in there, and he goes, he's like, okay, I think I got it. And Josh is in there, he's like, yeah, you need anything? And he turns to Josh and he goes, you can go now. So he left, and he goes, can we get the lights down a little low? And the lights were down. And, then he just, he sang it in his high kind of, Axl Rose voice, So he sang it like AC/DC, kind of the screamy version. And then he came out and he listened to it, and he's like, here's what I like to do. I want to do kind of like a low version, a low voice, and then like a middle voice. And then we'll have that high voice on top. So I want to have like 3 layers. So he's like literally producing the record, basically.
Huh.
Like he's listening to it, and he goes back in, and he sings like a low voice, then he sings like a middle voice. So he's got like a 10-octave range. I don't know how many voices this guy's got, but he went in there and he basically recorded like tracks for the vocals. So it was amazing. I mean, you're saying you can't, and everybody's just kind of, everybody in the room is like kind of just letting him run the show, and it's like, can't believe it's happening, and it's just not saying a word. I mean, is that how you remember it, Kevin?
Yeah, because at this point, like, it's so apparent to everyone. And I know I'm a fan, and I sound like a fanboy, but I to see someone who is an expert or a genius at what they do, like to see them do it, that was the coolest thing. I mean, like you see someone who's like, whatever their discipline is, whatever their chosen discipline is, whatever their profession is, to see someone in their environment and to see them just be like, this is what I do, and he's so good at it. Like he was so, like he knew, like he heard it and he's like, I got it. He knew what he wanted. I mean, we're just throwing this at him basically on the fly. And this dude is like, boom. People are sometimes like, and I would get this maybe more when I was younger doing shows, and Rob, you would get it too. But sometimes when you're improvising, especially when it wasn't as prominent as it is now, people will come up to you after a show and be like, that was amazing. Did you write that stuff? Like, how did you think up so quick, and how'd you do that? And it's, it's great. You're like, wow, that's really an ego stroke. But you're like, well, it's because I'm a professional, and I'm one of the few people who can kind of do this. Like Axl is, when he was on, like he just took it over, and that's what you see. You see like someone, and you're just like, wow. So everyone just kind of backed off because it wasn't even like, oh, this is Axl Rose, but you were just like, even if you don't know who this guy is, you'd be like, whoa, whoever this dude is, he knows what he's doing. So that was super cool about it.
That's just brilliant.
Brendan, I'm sorry. Can we pause this for a sec? I got to hop off. I apologize. Rob will take you the rest of the way, but I got to skedaddle out of here.
No, Kevin, I appreciate your time. I appreciate what you're able to give, and I'll finish up with Rob, and we'll talk soon when this episode is all polished and everything.
That's great. Thanks, man. I had a great time.
Thank you, Kevin, so much for your time.
Bye, Kevin.
All right, buddy. Talk to you, Rob. Bye.
See you later.
So we start with Rob, and then we end with Rob. It's perfect.
I know.
See, that's the beauty.
I'm ready.
And even, to go off what you guys have been saying, even just like for this interview, we set a time, and I'm crazy. I'm like 30 seconds goes by. I'm like, are they going to call? Are they going to call? And it has nothing to do with you. It has to do with me and my chemical imbalance. It's just,
I hear you.
Every time I don't believe it happened until it happens. And even then, after we're done with this, I need to have it saved on my computer so it doesn't erase. Like, did I actually do this? Is this actually happening? So I'm
the same way.
So I think it's brilliant, and you can relay the message to Kevin. I mean, I'll write him on Twitter as well. The passion from that's why I wanted to start with your stories. That it's so awesome that Guns N' Roses fans wrote this. That this was your path. To act and to write. It led you to this moment to be a fanboy again. To live in your childhood. To be to represent what's all over your wall. It's the same thing for me on my wall. I got pictures of Edward Scissorhands and the Crow, and of course Guns N' Roses, things, Ninja Turtles, things that remind me of my childhood. And it's amazing for me when my career path crosses where I get to interview some really amazing people, you guys included. So to have that moment, I don't know if, I'd like to think you guys are still young and you're going to have such a long career that you'll have other wonderful moments, but this is just how special. I don't know if you can duplicate a moment, a career moment like this. So regardless,
it's over for us. Can't top it.
But it's not even a matter of topping it, because you can still.
No, I know.
It's just the fact that you were able to your whatever path you started on and will end up on. It led to that, which is so special, and something I'm sure you'll tell your kids about, or your friends ask you about. It's just it's just awesome, and to hear how professional he was. The perhaps awkward moments when trying to give him direction, I think is just too funny, because I'm the same way. Sometimes you just never know when someone comes on to interview them, and I'm like, are they in a bad mood? Like, they agreed to do this? Like, what do I?
Right.
Like, what's going on here? So, and I wasn't going to keep you guys too much longer, so I won't keep you too much as well. Is there anything else, perhaps, in that whole little adventure that you would want to share? Maybe perhaps like the first time that do you know, like he watched it before it aired, like what his response was when the product was all finished and polished?
I have no idea. My impression, I guess, of him is that he's a dude who he tends to keep it close to the vest. I mean, he strikes me, and this is just my opinion. I have no inside knowledge, but and it's probably the opinions of, I think, a lot of you and your fans. Like, he's just a dude who's very all about the music, and doesn't really, he's put it out there, and whatever the response is sort of the response. I mean, I think he's probably, I would hope he's happy with how it turned out. I know that he had his own guy mix the vocals. I know that was a big thing for him. I think he just wanted his own personal dude to mix the vocal section.
Sure.
So that when he sent it, so when the track was completely remixed, he had a say in that. Obviously, I mean, so that was important to him. I mean, the thing I think that, I mean, I to be honest, I hear you talk about it, and then I honestly feel very similar to the way you do. Like, I mean, this is a guy who, obviously the Chinese democracy took a long time to get released. So I think in our heads, we're like, he took that long to do that. And the fact that he came in here and did this like in 2 or 3 hours and then just let it go out into the world was just shocking to me. And you know what I mean? I just didn't think that would happen.
Oh yeah, that's something I didn't ask. The amount of time so only 2 and 3 hours, or two or 3 hours. That's wow.
Yeah, I think he was 8. It was about 3 hours, you know. And to what Kevin was talking about earlier about someone who's really good at what they do. I mean, you see it. He was just able to kind of like Kevin was saying, and we've been saying this the whole time. He listened to it for 5 minutes and then delivered an amazing performance. Like he wrote this. It's almost like he wrote it or been singing it for years. And I think that's just because he's a pro, I mean, I remember we did a gig something similar happened to us, and you get little LA moments out here, but we did a gig with Ed O'Neill from Modern Family, and
Married with Children.
It was a benefit. Yeah, it was a benefit. Married with Children. Yeah, Married with Children, Al Bundy. It was a benefit for something. And he was given an old Second City script to perform. And he got it. You knew he just got it the day of, And he went up and he hit like every little beat, every little word was perfect, every joke he nailed. It was just like a guy who you're like, well, that's why that dude's successful, because he can take a script and make it come alive in 5 minutes. And I feel the same way about Axl. Like that's why he is who he is. That's why he's such a talented dude. He can take a song and make it sound like he's been singing it and make it come alive in literally, 5 minutes. So
just incredible. And I really do appreciate both of you taking the time to share that story, because it's not just it continues. The mystery around this band and around Axl Rose and how it led to Looney Tunes is amazing. So, for someone like you and Kevin to kind of open up and tell us about the whole process, how it happened, it's really appreciated. And, thanks for writing the episode. It's in a way it and writing the song too. It fed us in a way. We haven't had a new song from Axl in a decade, and then we get Rock the Rock, and it was very well received. And it's cool that he mentioned the AC/DC vibe, because that was the vibe that I got, which is fine with me. I was lucky enough to see Axl DC at Madison Square Garden. One of the blew me.
Nice! That must have been awesome.
Honestly, it was one of the best shows I've ever seen. It was just I obviously want Brian Johnson to be all healthy and happy, but I want to see Axl continue with AC/DC. It blew me away. So it doesn't surprise me that he was successful. He's successful in everything, whether it's joining another band or being in a cartoon.
That merger of him and AC/DC was pretty amazing. It was amazing how perfect that was. I mean, I love Brian Johnson too, and I the same. I wish him health, and I'd love to see him back and those guys touring again. But there was something about Axl and AC/DC getting together that was just a kind of a perfect marriage. So, and I know we were watching a lot of those, and you can always YouTube those clips,
right?
And we were watching a lot of those at the time. So I'm sure that influenced me was when I was coming up with the melody and stuff and the lyrics. So, but can I share one little funny thing?
Please.
Too more about the. There was a moment where they were recording. We were recording. He was recording the song, and I don't know, he'd just done the low part or something, or one of the vocal tracks. He's like, "Can I get a taco?" And he's like, and they're like, "What? Get him a taco. Get him a taco. He wants a taco. Get him what he needs." He's like, all right, we'll go get tacos. So one of his people went off, and they got tacos. And he came back, and then he's like, "Okay, I'm gonna have a taco, and then we'll come back and I'll finish up." So he walked out to. And he and everybody's like, "All right, well, we'll probably have like 10 minutes here or something." So people are kind of milling about, going to the bathroom, going off, having a smoke break, whatever. He literally goes out into the hallway, takes 2 bites of the taco, goes right back into the recording booth, and stands there with the headphones on, like, not saying anything, but like, he's ready. Okay, he's done. The break's over. Get back in here and get out of the bathroom. It was like he took like literally like a 30-second break.
My mouth
started singing again.
My mouth is agape right now. I can't even, for a taco, to have a couple bites of it. I mean, is he pregnant?
I know, right?
Like, is he having like a hankering for tacos? Wow,
I don't know. I think he was just hungry. I think he just needed a snack. But I mean, it was just funny that the break was very short, and he was very focused. He was like he would come out of the booth and he'd listen to it back, and he you didn't really want to. You didn't want to talk to him too much because you felt like he was listening to the record, and he's recording a song. It was still, even after you went home, you're like, did that even happen? It was so like the probability of it even going down. It was just one of those things, because, and like you said, you have all these. It was weird how we had these. You have things that you want to make happen or dreams in your life, and obviously we had a lot invested in this, and we wanted it to happen. And there were a lot of things we wanted to happen on the show, or even other projects that we've been working on that don't always pan out. And so it was really rewarding when you put your energy towards something and to make something come to fruition when it actually does. And it was thanks to him for showing up and all the people that worked on the show. And, it was really a fun experience.
I mean, I felt like I was there. So I thank you to Kevin, and of course to you, Rob, for sharing your story and just being so creative and coming up with such funny lines that only a true Guns N' Roses fan could come up with. Is so brilliant.
Thanks.
So I mean, I can't ask Kevin, but I don't know if you're. Is there anything that he's currently working? And of course, we'll get to you. Anything that he's currently working on that we can kind of promote and talk about?
Let's see. Well, he's working on. We're working on a few projects. We're working on Lego City Adventures together. Right. We're writers on that. That's on Nickelodeon. I think it's going to air before or after SpongeBob. I'm not sure.
Sweet.
We've written on a bunch of Warner Brothers shows that are coming out. We've written that are currently running. We've written some Unikitties. That's a great show. We've written on, of course, new Looney Tunes. Tom and Jerry show. We've written some Tom and Jerry's.
Okay.
We've written some Scooby-Doos. So all those shows, you can check those out. We're always creating new stuff and trying to sell new stuff. So we're doing that. We also, if you live in LA, we do shows at Second City Hollywood with a show called Mr. Johnson, and we do that also at the Fanatic Salon in Culver City. And I do a show called Deep Dish at Second City Hollywood. That's great with stand-ups and stuff. This is all LA people, though. If people from around the world want to fly to LA and see us, we'll gladly regale you with Axl Rose stories.
And that's how it is. I mean, I mentioned earlier that I had my last co-host was from India, so we have all over the different countries, but we have plenty, of course, because we're talking about a Hollywood band, listeners from California and LA. So I wouldn't be surprised if you had some listeners of this show pop in to say hello. So you can follow Kevin Fleming on Twitter at KevJ Fleming. He's the one that says his bio says actor, writer, farter. So that's fantastic.
He's an amazing farter. I
mean, the only way to be. And that Rob Janas on Twitter as well. And I just really, again, I can't thank you both enough for your time and sharing the story and the passion that you clearly have for your craft. And, just for being a Guns N' Roses fan. So please extend the invitation to Kevin as well. But you're always welcome back to talk more about Guns N' Roses. If you can play my co-host for a day. If there's any, if we can both interview somebody together, because you speak my language, Guns N' Roses and cartoons. So we're cool.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having us. It was really fun to talk about the show, and we're big fans of your show. We've listened to some other episodes, and
cool.
I'll be listening to more. So thanks a lot, Brandon. Really appreciate it.
Oh, that means a lot, Rob. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, man.
You have a great day.
Thanks a lot. You too.
Bye-bye. Tacos.
Oh, Axl.
I mean, I feel like this episode, this interview is exactly what I want this podcast to be. We got such a great Axl Rose story, right? And we heard from these two guys, and we heard about their life and how it just led them to have this incredible experience with a hero of theirs. And we got great stories. Nothing, I'm not out there trying to get dirt on anybody or, bad stories, I guess. Anyone to make anyone uncomfortable, things that maybe the band or Axl doesn't want to share or the management doesn't want to share. But that was a wonderful story. It showed his professionalism. There was hints of, just the humor of it all that these guys are looking at Axl, maybe like a lot of us do, that we, this legendary figure that we've heard all these rumors, true or false, over the years, being late or can't look in the eyes. But how many people do we talk to that say how nice Axl Rose is? And it's not even just Rob and Kevin. When we spoke to Roberta Freeman, who was on the the road with him for a few years with Use Your Illusion, it's all been great stuff. So this is just another example of trying to humanize these larger-than-life figures, because that's what we all are, essentially. I'm not saying anything too profound, that we're all human. I remember, I guess I've had to mature into believing that, because I remember my very first interview ever on radio, which you may or may not remember me talking about, and that's with Bumblefoot. This was in Cape Cod years ago, before Chinese Democracy came out. And I was just so happy to talk to somebody in Guns N' Roses, and it's my first radio interview ever. I'm in my early 20s, and I'm like, what is it like to work with Axl Rose? And I'm just like, even more of a fanboy than I am now. I was still green. I was still learning, just out of college. And he's like, we're just flesh and blood. He's just like you and me, flesh and blood. And I knew what he was saying, what Bumblefoot was saying to me at the time, because it's true. We're all flesh and blood. But in the society that we create across all over the world, which is why I love talking to people from India and Croatia and Canada and Australia, all over, where all of you are from, is that we're all kind of the same. We're all human. And how do we get to the path? We can go the bad path. We can hurt ourselves. We can hurt other people. We can maybe not be as successful as we want to be, or we can just be this other level of just stratosphere of Axl Rose is going to be known well after he dies. He is a legacy icon. Guns N' Roses, they are a legacy iconic band that will exist forever. I can't say forever. I don't know what's going to happen in a million years. Maybe this planet will blow up, probably. But how did he get to that place? And to know, again, that, Axl, and we knew as GNR fans that they started out with the Looney Tunes theme song, which I always thought was great. But that being the catalyst and to make this all happen, and Axl wanting to be a part of it because he's such a big Looney Tunes fan and comes with a Wile E. Coyote T-shirt, and it's like going to a Guns N' Roses concert wearing a Guns N' Roses T-shirt. By the way, I know. Oh, don't be that guy who wears the band of the shirt, the shirt of the band to the show.
You're gonna wear the shirt of the band you're gonna go see. Don't be that guy.
That's from PCU, that movie. I don't understand. I never understood that logic. It's like going to see a sports team. If I'm going to go see the Yankees, I'm wearing a Yankee jersey. I'm rooting on my team. So that's what Axl essentially did. He wore, his Looney Tunes jersey, so to speak, to go be in Looney Tunes. And that's awesome. But he has all the right to the privacy that he wants. I also want to make sure that's clear, too. He doesn't owe us any behind-the-scenes stories. But for someone who is at that level and has accumulated the fans and that he has, and the influence that he has on people and other bands and artists, these little nuggets, these stories help people. I think that's really cool. Axl Rose he needed to have a taco in the middle of an audio session. Please, I haven't done that. I haven't been extremely hungry in between, doing radio shows. It happens. He's human, and to hear that kind of stuff, I think is just. It's just too cool. It's just too cool, and I can't thank, again, Rob, Janas, and Kevin Fleming enough for taking the time to talk to us. This, I feel like every episode is my new favorite, and right now I feel this episode 126 is my new favorite. Just amazing, just amazing. So we're gonna see where this podcast goes. Just like we know that Kevin and Rob had no idea their careers would lead them to writing cartoons that involved Axl Rose and Snoop Dogg and Weird Al. I had no idea my career would lead down this path. No idea. And it's great. So let's keep it going. You help it keep going. So I have no idea where this podcast is going to keep going. Every episode surprises me. So let's keep it going. You help me with that. So remember, please, no matter how you listen, just make sure you follow and subscribe on the iHeartRadio podcast, on SoundCloud, on Spreaker, Google Play, Stitcher. We have still episodes on YouTube. I know we got to get caught up on the episodes on YouTube, but of course, you can still find everything on iTunes as well. And if you ever have any trouble with the getting an episode, just DM me, and I'll gladly send you the audio or the link or however to make it work. Facebook.com/The AFD Show or on Twitter @The AFD Show. And Twitter's amazing. That's how I set up this interview. Like Dave Perner, I went the route of emailing the publicist and that, a professional, legit way. But sometimes social media works. And you guys work, too. You guys make this possible because I know you are. I couldn't ask for a better producer than my listeners of the AFD Show. You guys are great producers and, of course, great co-hosts. So more opportunities to hear great unheard Guns N' Roses stories, Axl Rose stories, and for you to interview some of your favorite people. I'm going to continue to give you because you continue to give me a great platform that makes me happy. Anyway, I'll end on that corny note. That does it for episode 126 of Appetite for Distortion. When will you see the next episode? In the words of Axl Rose concerning Chinese democracy, I don't know if soon is the word, but you'll see it.
Thanks to the lame-ass security, I'm going home.